Do you know why more and more men nowadays no longer need women? The reason is simple. There are three main points and they are very harsh but also very real. Especially the third one, it might be hard to accept. First point. Men spend their entire lives being tied down by money and squeezed by responsibilities. These days, women talk about feelings with wealthy men and talk about money with poor men. A woman earning 2,000 or 3,000 a month can use her credit card to travel, while a man earning over 10,000 a month might still be considered poor. Why? Because he has to pay his mortgage, car loans, support his parents, and cover his children's education expenses. At the end of the year, he can't even afford to buy himself decent clothes and still gets complaints from his wife that life is boring. Men spend their whole lives working hard to earn money, but in the end, the assets go to the children, the salary card goes to the wife, and all that's left for them are grievances and the sweat of their labor. And even so, they still have to smile and say, "I'm not tired, it's fine." Second point. In reality, more than 90% of women dislike or even look down on their own husbands. They complain their husbands lack capability or see them only as tools for earning money. Especially those honest, hard-working men who know how to live frugally, they are often not valued by their wives. This means that husbands are looked down upon either because they lack skills or because they are not romantic. Even worse, some women claim their husband's incompetence is the reason for the decline in their quality of life. And the third and most important point. Have you noticed that in today's society, if a woman has no money, more than 90% of men would still be willing to support her? But on the flip side, if a man has no money, more than 90% of women would quickly leave, afraid of being tied to him. Because of this, these men have no choice but to suffer and heal silently. No one knows what they've been through or how broken and helpless they feel. And the woman who chose to leave him? She feels nothing but disdain and shows no compassion at all. This is why many men no longer need women. They don't want to love anymore. Instead of living with such humiliation in love, they'd rather live freely and happily on their own. What do you think?
中国的男人真的配不上现在中国的女人。
Chinese men really don't deserve Chinese women today. Or rather, it's not about being undeserving. It's that they can't afford them. Nowadays, businesses are brainwashing women every day to cut them down like leeks. Telling them how to live, how to behave. It's insane. They've stopped being reasonable. Constantly shouting about gender equality. When it comes to doing housework, they demand gender equality. But when it's time to discuss bride price, where's the talk of equality? When it's time to pay the bill at a meal, why not talk about gender equality then? In other countries, it's women who call for gender equality. In China, it's men calling for it. Why? Because their status is so low. Chinese women have the highest status in the world. And some clueless women even think this is a good thing. Capital uses the dirtiest, most malicious tactics to elevate women. But in doing so, it fools them. And ultimately ruins them. Capital isn't advocating for you. It's figuring out how to take your money. Many people don't realize this. But when companies negotiate advertising deals with TV stations or influencers, they ask about the percentage of female followers. If it's high, they're more willing to invest, even at a premium. Over the past decade, women have shown immense purchasing power. According to statistics, 9 out of the top 10 box office hits in China in 2023 targeted female audiences. Women's spending averages over twice that of men. Women are more willing to spend and spend big. So, to make women open their wallets, capital and media have started flattering and overpraising them. If you don't believe it, just look at women today. Regardless of their age, they call themselves Miss, Goddess, or Fairy. Even the word woman in Women's Day has been replaced by Goddess Day by businesses. Just to keep women focused on beauty. Beauty becomes the priority. Even if they're not beautiful. Capital tells them, there are no ugly women, only lazy ones. What does that mean? It means women must learn to dress up. And dare to spend money on it. And women believe it. They fall into this consumerist trap, constantly buying cosmetics, bags, and clothes, wearing yoga outfits that cost thousands to go to the gym, and using smartphones worth tens of thousands to take and edit photos. They indulge in expensive hobbies like skiing, living as though they have no financial pressure, indulging in consumption and enjoyment, without much thought for the future. But for the majority of women, their wages can't possibly sustain this level of consumption. According to statistics, the average salary for women is 6,000 to 7,000 yuan. After rent, utilities, and daily necessities, there's barely anything left to satisfy desires and keep up with others. Some resort to online loans, or even naked loans. If a man is deeply in debt, he may lie awake at night worrying about how to repay it. But for women, it's different. It's not that they don't feel anxious, they do. But their mindset is quickly manipulated by capital, and they are fed extremely toxic values. Capital tells women, you're not wrong. If there's any fault, it's in being too foolish to spend confidently and unapologetically on a man's money. Women brainwash themselves, thinking that if a man loves them, he'll spend money on them. The deeper the love, the more he'll spend. So they feel justified in expecting gifts during festivals, red envelopes, or a new bag every so often. Now tell me, with this mindset, who can afford them? They claim a perfect marriage requires a man to earn the money, while the woman remains youthful and beautiful. How could any man not feel overwhelmed by this? Do they think of themselves as ornaments? After working hard to earn money, a man still has to take care of the household. The woman, on the other hand, just stands there and demands money, with no sense of shared responsibility for the family. Amazingly, most women believe this, and even make it their standard for choosing a partner. They think a man who truly loves them will never expect them to cook or care for children, or share any family responsibilities. In their minds, the ideal partner is someone who takes on all obligations, while also letting them enjoy the privilege of being beautiful and carefree. This thinking is both laughable and sad. People often say women's youth is precious. But let me ask you, isn't men's youth precious too? How many men at 25 or 26 marry and immediately take on a debt of 1 to 2 million yuan for the next 30 years? Who can guarantee there won't be any accidents or issues over such a long period? And once this mindset becomes ingrained in a woman, don't expect her to stand by you in tough times. If she doesn't stab you in the back, she's already being generous. How many men reach their late 30s or 40s and can't even find a stable job? Many end up delivering food or driving for rideshare companies, working tirelessly from morning to night, sometimes in pouring rain with water up to their knees, just to earn a bit of money. If they get into a minor accident, their first thought isn't their safety but whether the vehicle is damaged, and whether it'll stop them from making money. I advise all men, wake up. Don't act like fools. Look around, many men in Guangzhou marry foreign women. These women don't ask for bride prices or dowries. And there are men who focus on their own lives, their social status, their health. Stop chasing after this so-called equality. Explaining things to women is pointless. Educating them is a waste of time. Men need to awaken their self-awareness. Earning money is what matters. If you can catch a ride on the wave of success, good. If not, at least you'll have financial independence. I'm not saying this to create gender conflicts. I just want to tell everyone, the world is driven by profit. Be wary of those who elevate you, because they may lead you to lose yourself and your ability to think critically.
Teach us, men, why are more and more men no longer in need of women? Seriously, especially those who have been hurt. When a man has money, women are always around him. When a man has no money, no woman is near. That's reality. A man's life is often tied to money, pressured by responsibilities. Today's women only want to have relationships with rich men, while with poor men, the conversation is only about business and money. Listen carefully. A woman who earns 2,000 to 3,000 a month can use credit cards, go on trips. But a man who earns over 10,000 might still be a poor man, because he has to deal every month with mortgage payments, car installments, social obligations, along with the cost of children's education, the care of aging parents, and by the end of the year, often, he can't even buy a decent piece of clothing for himself. Sometimes, he's even complained about by his wife, who says life has lost its romance. Women, on the other hand, are always comparing themselves with others around them. But men spend their entire lives struggling to make money, and in the end, have nothing to show for it, sacrificing themselves to support their children, handing over their entire salary to their wife, leaving only frustration and weary sweat. This is the daily reality. Sometimes, they have to force a smile and say, "I'm not tired, everything's fine." In real life, over 90% of women disappoint their husbands, look down on their husbands, and complain that their husbands don't measure up. To them, the husband is just a tool for making money, especially those honest, practical men, who are often disregarded by their wives. Have you noticed that, nowadays, if a woman has no money, over 90% of men are willing to support her? On the flip side, when a man has no money, over 90% of women choose to leave him. This is the harsh and heartbreaking reality. Therefore, men end up choosing to heal on their own, because no one understands what they go through. Sometimes, after moments of total collapse and helplessness, only those who've been through it truly understand and feel that pain. When a man is abandoned by his woman, society offers no support or compassion, only contempt. That's why many men don't need women.
不知道大家有没有发现这样一个
Do
现
not
象？
know if everyone has noticed this phenomenon. Many men are starting not to need women anymore. They think it is fine to be alone. Earning 2,000 or 3,000. Can I not spend it well by myself? After work. A plate of peanuts. A cucumber salad. A couple of pig trotters. In hot weather, buy a few bottles of Qingdao snow beer. In cold weather, buy a bottle of Erguatu. If I want to drink until whenever, I drink until whenever. What happens if I don't make my bed? What happens if I don't clean the house? Smoking in the room is no problem. No one will complain that I earn too little. Cannot support a family. Not as good as the neighbor Wang. No one will nag me for not being humorous enough. Not having any style. Not romantic at all. Even less worry about. One day a beautiful wife bringing a green hat to oneself. Thinking about it, it actually makes sense. If a man wants to get married, he first has to empty an entire family or even several generations to buy a house. And then also pay a large sum of dowry. It is said that in some places, the dowry has already surpassed 500,000. This dowry is enough to buy a new Audi A6. Getting married means facing even more problems. New Year, Spring Festival, Lantern Festival, Labor Day, Mid-Autumn Festival, National Day. Which holiday do you not have to prepare some small gifts for? No romantic moments. Wedding anniversaries. The first cup of milk tea in autumn. Even Double 11. Men's Singles Day has become a shopping day for women. After marriage, one must have children. With children, a man's life only becomes harder. But the education of children alone can drive someone to a breakdown. The solution to these problems is money. A lot of money. But ordinary people do not have the opportunity to earn big money. If someone says, "Bro, I have a big business. Can make lots of money." Don't believe it. Why would he let you make money? He's not your father. If you go, the result is just being scammed. And very badly. So more and more men have seen the truth about society. Understood the reality of life. And more importantly, they see the humble future of ordinary men. They decisively cut it off from the root. I don't need a woman. I'll live alone. I'll cut it off at the root. This does not mean cutting off their own roots, but cutting off the root of the matter. Without women, there is no need to celebrate any holiday. Living alone. As long as happy. Every day is a holiday. Of course. If you don't think straight. New Year's will also be a day of suffering. Some netizens might say, there are 3 unfilial acts. The greatest is not having descendants. If you do not have your own children, that's the greatest unfilial act. For over 2,000 years, this kind of thinking still exists. When a person cannot even solve their basic needs, having children might be the greatest unfilial act. If you can't solve children's education, healthcare, and housing, how can you be a filial son? Should you let aging parents help raise children? Animals reduce reproduction in harsh environments. Huddle together to survive tough times. The big, silly hippopotamus reduces fertility. When water habitats shrink and food is scarce. Are humans worse than hippos? Moreover, why would you have children? To inherit your own anxiety, toil, and poverty? If that's the case, not having children is also a form of kindness. Not to mention, The so-called three unfilial acts, having no descendants as the greatest, their real meaning is about not fulfilling the responsibility to descendants, not about not having children as we often say. Another issue, do not know if everyone has noticed. Women, especially attractive ones, have become a luxury item. You'll notice a problem. No matter if you are handsome or not, young or old. As long as you drive a luxury car, stop in a city's commercial street, see a beautiful woman, invite her to get in. You'll usually succeed. Even if not, you'll get a WeChat contact. But if you drive a car worth 30 or 50,000, inviting a woman to get in will only get you a scornful look. In other words, now more and more women believe only men driving luxury cars, worth millions or even tens of millions, are their ideal Prince Charming. In reality, he might only earn a few thousand a month, still renting a house, no car, but never sees himself as inadequate. He sees himself as top tier in wine, a Ferrari in his car. If you want to drink that wine, drive that car, you need to have $1 million income, at least a villa, at least a Ferrari. That's not the point. The point is, such women are increasing. Even some divorced, older women, unemployed, never studied, are beginning to have this mindset. Even worse, a woman who has dined with a wealthy man, or been through matchmaking with one, only sees wealthy men as worthy of her. Ordinary people don't even make it into her gaze. Like Wang Gongzi, switching girlfriends is as easy as changing clothes. And most of these girlfriends are attractive, tall, even highly educated. The key is, none of Wang Gongzi's ex-girlfriends ever made a scene because of a breakup, nor exposed Wang Gongzi online. Many internet influencers' ex-girlfriends became even more famous, switching to live streaming sales. Last year, a post-90s ex-girlfriend publicly showed her baby, and her husband lovingly said, "Wife, you've worked hard." Of course, this husband is not Wang Gongzi. Why? Because Wang Gongzi has Batman-like superpowers. In the movie Justice League, Spider-Man asks, "What's your superpower?" Batman calmly replies, "Money." Spider-Man shuts up, no longer chatting endlessly. If superheroes with no money remain silent, ordinary people with no money naturally have to lower their expectations. Those luxury items become out of reach. Finally, I advise our female compatriots, if you really want to get married and live a life, don't turn yourself into a luxury item. Don't flaunt yourself as a goddess because of long legs. Because in a few years, Musk's humanoid robot will mature, becoming a man's second choice.
This is a complex discussion. When we talk about rights, people often think of laws, democracy, and social equality. But here's the thing. While these ideals sound great on paper, reality often paints a different picture. Take feminism, for example. The promise was that women entering the workforce would help share the economic and social burden with men. Yet, in practice, that hasn't always happened. In many cases, men still end up carrying most of the weight. On a broader scale, women today represent one of the largest costs to the state. Every new law or policy aimed at equality often comes with an increase in public spending. Some unofficial estimates suggest these costs could account for up to 30% of government budgets. That's a significant chunk, especially when you consider other financial drains like corruption. When men talk about rights, the focus is usually on things like paid paternity leave, fair retirement policies, or addressing misandry online. But let's face it, these efforts are often dismissed because they're seen as less masculine. This highlights a bigger issue. Men need to realize that simply asking or complaining won't cut it. Action is what matters. Being a man means stepping up, taking responsibility, and owning the consequences of your decisions. It's about meeting challenges head-on. The legal system may seem harsher on men, but that reflects society's expectations for men to be providers and protectors. At the end of the day, laws and rights are just societal constructs. What truly matters is the law of nature, survival. And in that realm, power belongs to those who control the essentials: food, shelter, and health. Historically, men were valued because they provided these resources. Arranged marriages, for example, weren't about oppression but about ensuring safety and stability for women. It was a system of responsibility and care, not abuse, as it's sometimes portrayed today. We need to stop expecting the system to solve all our problems. Rights, laws, and equality are important concepts, sure, but real life is driven by strength, resilience, and action. Men have to carve out their own space, take the initiative, and tackle obstacles head-on. Power and survival don't come to those who wait for change. They come to those who make it happen. Let's face it, deep down we all know that success and power come from hard work, resilience, and action. It's time to step up without excuses and without waiting for society or the system to do the work for you. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's your take on this dilemma? Do you agree, or do you see things differently? Drop a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for more content like this. See you in the next video.